Now we'll proceed towards the next topic, next type of reproduction, that is asexual reproduction. This is a type of reproduction in which offsprings are produced by only one parent. Here only one parent is involved, no gamete formation takes place, no fusion of gametes is there, and they are all the offsprings are morphologically and genetically similar. That's why they are also known as clones. That means all of them are similar, no difference in their morphology or genes. That's why. Now it involves only mitotic division. That means here no meiosis takes place, only the division, cell division is of mitosis type. This results in rapid reproduction rate, that means it will take place at a very faster rate. No variation arise in the offspring. You can say this is the advantage or disadvantage, that all the offsprings are of same type, no variation is there, no change is there, all are similar, and it is found in generally all the lower organisms. The complex organisms have no such type of reproduction. For example, protozoa, sponges, then worms, etc. Now, types of asexual reproduction. There are different types of asexual reproduction depending upon the process or the event. First is fission, second is fragmentation, next budding, then regeneration, and next one is spore formation. Now fission means to break something. So when the individual body break into two or more, then it is known as fission. If it is breaking down into, or one parent is giving rise to two daughters, then it is known as binary fission, and if more than two, then it is known as multiple fission. For example, in amoeba, the cell will undergo first karyokinesis, that is division of the nucleus, then all the cell organelles and cytoplasm will be divided into two daughter cells, and this is known as the daughter cells. Two daughter cells, amoeba cells, arise from the, develop from the parent cell, parent amoeba. That's why it is known as binary, because one parent is giving rise to only two individual daughters. Now multiple fission is the type of fission in which more than two cells or the individual offsprings are arising at a time from the parent cell. In case of Plasmodium, you are aware of this name. Plasmodium is the pathogen for the disease, that is malaria. Now this Plasmodium, what happens during the unfavorable condition, the nucleus of the Plasmodium undergoes division. So many small nuclei will form, which is surrounded by a small part of cytoplasm, and it is encysted by a tough layer around them. On commencement of the favorable condition, that cyst will burst and all the small cells, Plasmodium cells, will come out. Then it is known as multiple fission. In this way, from one parent cell or the Plasmodium, a big number of Plasmodium will arise. Now second type is fragmentation. Here the plant body or animal body divided into small fragments, and all these fragments will develop into new individual, and then it is known as fragmentation. For example, Spirogyra, etc. Third type is budding. Here budding means the small outgrowths when arise from the plant or animal body, these outgrowth will detach from the body, parent body, and it will develop into the new individual. It is also of two types, that is, first is external budding and next is internal budding. When the outgrowth come on the outer body surface, then it is known as external budding. For example, hydra and yeast. And internal budding example is spongilla. Fourth type is regeneration. Here, when the plant body or animal body is lost due to any accident or due to any reason, then lost part is regenerated or developed. That is known as regeneration. Example is planaria, starfish, etc. Now, fifth one is spore formation. For example, rhizopus, that is a type of fungi. Now, spore formation means a special type of structures are produced for this process, that is for asexual reproduction. Either it is motile having flagella or non-motile, that is conidia without flagella. For example, rhizopus conidia is there without flagella, zoospores in case of algae with the flagella. In this way, asexual reproduction shows different types of method by which these diagrams, here you can see different types of method of asexual reproduction. This diagram showing the binary fission in amoeba. Here you can see this parent cell which grow in size. First it will undergo karyokinesis, that is division of the nuclei into two, and then finally the cytoplasm and other cell organelles divided or distributed among these two daughter cells. In this way, two daughter cells arise from a single parent cell. That's why it is known as binary fission. Some other examples of binary fission are paramecium, etc. also. Then here multiple fission. Multiple fission, here you can see this is the cell of plasmodium, parent cell. The nucleus will divide into so many small nuclei, get surrounded by small part of the cytoplasm, and so many plasmodium daughter cells are formed. This cyst will burst after the commencement of the normal favorable condition, and all these plasmodiums will come out. You can see so many plasmodiums, daughter plasmodium cells are arising or developing from the single multiple this plasmodium, parent plasmodium. This diagram showing the budding in yeast, that is external budding, the outgrowth which is coming out on the surface of the body, it will detach from the yeast and finally it will develop into the new yeast cell. This diagram showing the types of asexual reproduction among some organisms. Here you can see the asexual reproduction or budding in hydra. Here the small outgrowth is arising from the individual's body on the outer surface, and that's why it is known as external budding. This bud will grow in size and finally it will detach from the animal body and it will develop into the new individual. In this way, budding will take place in hydra. Now, these are the steps which are showing the binary fission in paramecium. Here it occurs in transverse part of the body. That's why it is known as transverse binary fission in paramecium. In this way, in nature we can see different types of asexual reproduction occurs. Now, this diagram is the example of the formation of a spore. Here you can see in the zygomycetes, that is fungi, rhizopus, the special structure appears or spores arise in this sporangia, and these sporangia will burst out, the spores will come out and they will flourish in the soil, they will propagate in the soil and give rise to the new rhizopus plant. In the same way, here in case of algae, the zoospores. The special structures are produced known as zoospores with flagella. That's why it is motile structure. It will come out from the body, and each and every zoospore will give rise to the new algal plant. Now we'll discuss about the difference and similarities of the asexual reproduction as well as vegetative propagation. What are the difference and similarities? We can see, you can compare that in vegetative propagation also single individual is there, the no meiosis is going on, no fusion of gametes, no formation of gametes, same way in asexual reproduction also. But how these two are different? In case of vegetative reproduction, we can see that the vegetative part of the plant or animal participate in this process, that is reproduction. But in case of asexual reproduction, a special type of structures are produced for the purpose, that is reproduction, like the birds, etc., gemmules, etc. So, conidia, zoospores, all of these are the specialized structures meant for this purpose only. They are not the vegetative part of the body. In this way, both are similar as well as different. Now, we will proceed towards the next step, next important type of reproduction, that which is the most complex one, that is known as sexual reproduction. This sexual reproduction is a special type of or mode of reproduction in which two individuals are involved. Here the most important thing is that fusion and formation of gametes. That means the haploid gametes are produced by the process of gametogenesis, in which the type of cell division meiosis is necessary to maintain the chromosome number from one generation to next. Haploid means half number of chromosome will appear in the gametes, and just after the fusion of male and female gamete, the new individual arrives with the same chromosome number as parent. Here, in case of sexual reproduction, the offsprings are genetically and morphologically different from their parents, and variations appear due to new combination of genes, where actually in case of in the step of the meiosis, the crossing over takes place. This crossing over is the root cause of the new combination of genes or variation, and finally it will lead to the evolution process. So, this is the very complex type of sexual reproduction as well as superior type of reproduction. But it occurs at very slow rate than the asexual reproduction and generally found in higher plants and animals. All the vertebrates and some protista exhibit such type of reproduction. Now, there are different types of sexual reproduction on the basis of nature of fusing structure. Which structure is going to fuse? Depending upon that, it is of two types. First is syngamy. It involves the complete and permanent fusion of two haploid gametes, sperm and ovum. Sperm is the male gamete and ovum is the female gamete. Both are haploid. They will undergo the fusion process and the product will be diploid zygote. So, they are completely and permanently fused and the product will zygote. But the conjugation here only it involves a temporary pairing of two parents, like the small parts which are going to temporary pairing is known as conjugates, and they exchange their male pronuclei. For example, you can see in case of paramecium, bacteria, etc. Now, types of syngamy. This syngamy, depending upon the nature of the gametes, there are three types of syngamy: isogamy, anisogamy, oogamy. Iso means same type, similar type, When both the gametes, male and female gametes, are of similar types, then it is known as isogametes, and their fusion will be known as isogamy. In the same way, aniso means different types. When both the gametes are of different types, and then they will be known as anisogametes, and their fusion will be known as anisogamy. When the female gamete is in the form of egg or ovum, then such type of gametes is known as oogamous. The male gamete and the female gamete is in the form of ovum, and their fusion will be known as oogamy. In this way, depending upon the nature of the gametes, there are three types of syngamy, isogamy, anisogamy, oogamy. When both type of reproductive organs, testes and ovary, present in the same individual's body, then it is known as bisexual or monoecious or hermaphrodite. And both the gametes, that is male gamete and female gametes, are produced from the single individual. For example, earthworm, tapeworm, etc. On the other side, when both type of reproductive organs are present in separate organism, then it is known as unisexual or dioecious. And example is all the vertebrates and many invertebrates. Now, the important events which have involved in the sexual reproduction, it includes three types of events. First is pre-fertilization event, second is fertilization event, and third one is post-fertilization event. Pre-fertilization event, that means the phenomena which takes place just before the fusion of gametes, just before the fertilization, that is gametogenesis and gamete transfer. Now, what is gametogenesis? Gametogenesis means formation of gametes. If it is male gamete, sperm, it is known as spermatogenesis. If it is egg formation or egg ovum, then it is known as oogenesis. And after formation of this male and female gamete, the gamete will transfer, the male gamete will transfer to the female gamete, and that phenomena is known as gamete transfer, and these two are events occurs during the pre-fertilization event. Now it will proceed towards the second step, that is the fertilization or syngamy. Fusion of male and female gamete is known as syngamy. The product is zygote. Now it will proceed towards the next, that is post fertilization event. Here the product is zygote. This zygote will undergo the developmental process to form the embryo known as embryogenesis, and finally it will give rise to the new individual or the development of fruits, etc. In this way, we can see the sexual reproduction involves the three main events, that is pre-fertilization event, then fertilization, and now depending upon the source of the pollen and the male gamete and female gamete, there are two types of pollination, self-pollination and cross-pollination. If the transfer of the pollen occurs from the same flower to the stigma of the same flower, then it is known as self-pollination. And if the pollen of different flower is deposited on the stigma of different flower, then it is known as cross-pollination. In the process of pollination, there are some agents in nature which are helping in this process, and these agents are very necessary to fulfill the process of pollination. This is of different types, that entomophily by insects, anemophily, hydrophily by water, cheratophily by bats, ornithophily by birds. We can see in this chart that types of pollination and their agents. You can see the pollination is of two types, cross pollination and self pollination. Self-pollination is again subdivided into two, that is autogamy and geitonogamy. Autogamy means the male and female gamete of the same flower, and when the same plant is there but flowers are different, then it is known as geitonogamy. And if the flower of different plant, then male gamete from different plant and female gamete from different plant, the pollination will process occur, then it will known as cross pollination or genogamy. Now, what are the pollinating agents which are helping in this process? They are of two types, biotic and abiotic. Biotic means living things. What are the living things or living beings which are helping in this process? Now, biotic means like the living beings like snails, when they are involved in this process, it is known as malacophily. When insects are helping, that is entomophily. When birds are helping in this process, ornithophily. If bats, then chiraptophily, and other vertebrates, then zoophily. Similarly, some non-living things are also helping in this process like wind, water, etc., and accordingly different terminology is there for the process of pollination. In this way, pollination is very important phenomena in the sexual reproduction. Here you can see the diagram to understand the process of pollination and fertilization. Here you can see that pollen is transferred at the stigma of the flower. From here, due to the chemotropism, it will grow towards the pollen tube will grow inside the this ovule. Here it will release two male gametes which will fuse with the egg, and the product is zygote, and finally it will develop into the fruit and the seed. In this way, pollination and fertilization takes place in flower. This diagram is showing the double fertilization process in angiospermic plant. This is the peculiar feature of angiospermic plant. It is not found in other group of plants. Here the process of fertilization occurs twice, hence it is known as double fertilization. See, when this pollen deposited on the stigma of the flower, the pollen tube will grow towards this ovule and it will release here two male gametes. One male gamete will fuse with this ovum to form the zygote, the diploid structure, and one male gamete is fused with the secondary nucleus, which is already 2n, that is diploid structure. So 2n plus 1n, that is 3n. The product is endosperm. This phenomena is known as triple fusion, and this phenomena is known as syngamy. So product of syngamy is zygote and product of triple fusion is endosperm. Because the process of fertilization takes twice, that's why it is known as double fertilization, which is the peculiar characteristic feature of angiospermic plants. Now we'll discuss some changes which occurs in the female or male during the reproductive phase. Here generally in the female of the placental mammal, the cyclic changes occurs which just prior to the reproductive phase, which are known as estrous cycle and menstrual cycle. Estrous cycle is the characteristic feature of the non-primates like cows, sheep, rats, etc., where the cyclic changes occurs in the activity of ovary, the accessory ducts, hormones, etc., in the females of placental mammals. Similarly, the menstrual cycle occurs in the female of primates, which include monkeys, apes and human. Now, the next term, that is seasonal breeder, that means the mammal which show the cyclic changes and reproductive phase during the some particular favorable time only, in particular season only, then it is known as seasonal breeders. And when the mammals show such cyclic changes and reproduce throughout the year, then it is known as continuous breeders. So, these are some important terminology which we will discuss in this chapter. Some other terminologies are, first is blastogenesis. Now, blastose are the asexual reproductive units which will undergo formation of or development of the new individual. That means when the organism develop from the asexual reproductive unit, for example birds, some body fragments, some body parts, etc., that means without formation of the embryo, then it is known as blastogenesis, and those reproductive units are known as blastose. Now, embryogenesis. Embryogenesis means formation of embryo. Now, how the embryo forms? When the organism gives rise to different gametes, that is sexual reproductive units, that is gametes, male gamete as well as female gamete, they will undergo fusion process, and then the zygote will form, which will undergo formation and development of embryo, and whole phenomena is known as embryogenesis. Now, next phenomena or the event is parthenogenesis. It is the development of unfertilized ovum into a fully formed haploid organism. This involves only one parent, that is why it is known as monoparental. Now, for example, you can see in nature so many parthenogenetic cases, or artificially we are also producing parthenogenetic organisms. For example, in nature you can see that in case of honeybees, the drones, the male drones are developed from unfertilized egg. Some examples are, other examples are some molluscas, rotifers, aphids, etc. They undergoes development without fertilization process. So, they are the example of natural parthenogenesis. Now, some parthenogenetic process we are exhibiting by using some chemicals or physical stimuli like temperature, electric shock, etc. Some chemicals are also helping in this process, like use of urea, sucrose, organic solvent, etc. They are utilized for the process, that is artificial parthenogenesis on the egg of frog, some sea urchin, etc. Next is apomixis. This is the phenomena, that is development of the seeds without fertilization. Here I would also like to add one more term, that is parthenocarpy. Carp means fruit. Formation of or development of fruit without fertilization, then it is known as parthenocarpy. Phenomena is parthenocarpy, and such fruits will be known as parthenocarp, or so such, but the peculiar feature of those fruits will be, they will be seedless fruits. In this way, different terminology we can see in the sexual reproduction